The amazing journey of a millionaire who found love in a poor girl at a bus stop. Jack Thompson, a rising star in the world of architecture, stood behind his sleek office window, gazing blankly into the rain-soaked streets of Maplewood. A towering skyscraper, his latest celebrated creation, overshadowed the very town he'd grown up in. Accolades were rolling in, but with them came a gnawing sense of emptiness echoing in his chest. The childhood echoes of his parents' hollow expectations came rushing back. Wealth over warmth, prestige over genuine connection. He never imagined that success could feel so isolating, leaving him questioning if the distance between his desires and his reality would ever close. It was a dreary Thursday afternoon when the incessant ticking of his office clock began to thrum in his ears, counting down not just the minutes until his next meeting, but the moments of clarity he so desperately sought. He decided to leave early, ready to escape the weight of expectation, when he hesitated at the bus stop. In that moment of solitude, his mind swirling with confusion, fate nudged him. He noticed Emily. The waitress stood vibrant against the slate-gray backdrop, her laughter sparkling like gems in the pouring rain. She shared a joke with another unsuspecting commuter, and Jack felt drawn to her warmth. There was something in her carefree spirit that stirred a long-buried longing for connection. As they exchanged pleasantries, Jack felt something move within him, an elusive flicker of happiness brightening the gloom. Their conversations grew infectious, and she introduced him to a life separated from his rigid corporate world. Through Emily's eyes, Jack rediscovered joy in simple things: her stories, her laughter, her genuine gratitude for the smallest of moments. But with every heartbeat that echoed their friendship, a shadow crept in. The divide between their worlds, his gilded cage and her humble life, became a growing turbulence he couldn't ignore. The whispers from his affluent colleagues began to seep into his consciousness, seeding doubt. How could a man of his stature be seen in public with a waitress? The subtle scoffs and knowing glances gnawed at him. Internal conflict twisted in his gut. Could he embrace what brought him joy in this increasingly superficial realm? When the offer of a lucrative partnership arrived, an opportunity of a lifetime but entangled with an ultimatum, it was as if the floor had been dropped from beneath him. Sacrifice his heart or elevate his career? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Caught in the storm of spiraling doubts, Jack found his heart racing with turbulence. He was tormented by what success truly meant in a world that revolved around superficial validation. The laughter that once echoed joy now held a taut tension haunting him. Desperation clawed at him for clarity. Emily, steadfast in her dreams, spoke passionately about affordable housing, an idea that sparked warmth yet filled him with dread. Could he even dare to entertain mixing architecture with something that mattered to the community? As he prepared to confront his firm, amidst the looming specter of rejection, the weight of two worlds pressed down on him. Torn between ambition and the rare love he found, Jack stood at the precipice of a pivotal moment, a decision that would shape not just his career, but the kind of man he wished to become. Jack felt the rain trickling down the glass as he stood at the bus stop, his thoughts a tempest. The weight of his choices bore down on him, leaving an unsettling ache in his chest. Could he truly forego the accolades, the future he had spent years meticulously crafting? The partnership promised continued prestige, yet it felt like a tightening noose suffocating the parts of him that longed for authenticity. His conversations with Emily swirling in his mind like delicate music. As he left the bus stop and made his way to his office, Jack wrestled with conflicting emotions. Each step echoed the familiar rhythm of his life, one of ambition, success, and social standing. But the recent encounters with Emily altered that symmetry. She represented a new narrative, one where success transcended financial gain and ascended to encompass happiness. His pulse quickened with the thoughts, mingling hope and apprehension, a bittersweet concoction that urged him to challenge the status quo. That evening, long after his office had emptied, he found himself sitting at his desk with a blank proposal in front of him. It was a document that held the key to his future, one that could solidify his place among the elite in architecture, but demanded absolute conformity to the very values he began to question. With his fingers poised above the keyboard, Jack hesitated, grappling with his identity. Each word he typed felt hollow, an echo of expectations that suffocated his newfound understanding. The thought of meeting Emily again softened the tension in his chest. He longed to share his struggles with her, to see the warmth in her eyes reflected back at him. Would she understand the conundrum he faced? Could the innocent joy she exuded become his guiding star in the murky waters ahead? It was this essence of Emily that propelled Jack to draft a new proposal, one that merged his architectural vision with a definitive purpose. He quickly sketched plans for a community-focused project, affordable housing that would stand as a testament to more than just bricks and mortar. But as he worked, self-doubt crept in, echoing the whispers of his colleagues. Who would? Could he be taken seriously in this venture? Could he be taken seriously? Jack could already imagine their incredulous laughter. Architects were entertainers of concrete, not altruists. He felt the conflict tighten around him again, but it was not just them he feared disappointing. It was himself, the man now standing at the intersection of ambition and authenticity. Frustrated, he leaned back in his chair, everything around him blurring into a muddled haze. In that moment, he was confronted with the age-old dilemma, to conform or to redefine. The thought of Emily's laughter pierced through the fog, a reminder of the clarity her presence brought. The idea of building a space that nurtured lives, people who had been overlooked by the system, ignited a long-dormant flame within him. The decision crystallized, yet fear followed closely on its heels. What would happen if the partnership unraveled as a result of this bold new course? His reputation was at stake, and so was the fragile connection he had come to cherish with Emily. The stakes had never felt higher, and yet, amidst the whirlwind of uncertainty, one thing became painfully clear. His path forward meant risking everything to embrace his new calling, even if it meant standing alone. As dawn broke, illuminating the city with golden rays, Jack embarked on a new day, uncertain yet determined. He would face his firm. The time had come to confront not just his colleagues, but also his deepest fears. Would he choose a life defined by love and community, or one dictated by wealth and status? The clock was ticking, and with every tick, an imminent decision loomed. Jack took a deep breath, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. The moment of truth was close, and little did he know, the consequences of his choice would ripple far beyond his considerations. As Jack entered the office, the electric hum of fluorescent lights did little to quell the growing tumult within him. Each familiar face around the open space radiated determination, pursuing success driven by traditional metrics, awards, office space, validation from industry titans. He felt like an outsider on the very brink of their world, teetering precariously on the edge of his decision. He clenched his fists at his sides, the prospect of the upcoming meeting sending tremors through his nervous system. His colleagues' mundane conversations drifted to him as if muffled by distance, their words meaningless against the gravity of his intent. In the corner of his vision, Ben, his rival and once close friend, commanded attention as he discussed his latest high-profile project. Success wrapped around Ben like a mantle, and for a fleeting second, envy clawed at Jack's resolve. But the thought of Emily caught him like a life raft in stormy seas. Every time he envisioned her smile, it reminded him of the life he truly longed for, one shaped by fulfillment rather than accolades. This flicker of hope ignited a silent rebellion against the pressures that had dictated his life for far too long. The meeting room was adjacent, alive with the anticipation of competition. He took a breath, the scent of fresh coffee mingling with the hint of above-the-surface despair that hung in the air. Flipping through the pages of his newly drafted proposal, Jack felt a profound pulse underlining every phrase. The focus on community, on purpose, was not just a departure, it was a lifeline. This was more than a project, it was a declaration of who he wanted to be. As the clock approached 9, Jack felt the heart of his decision thumping in synchrony with his breathing. He stepped inside the meeting room, his colleagues already seated with papers scattered like leaves. Silence fell as he took his place at the head of the table, the space transgressing typical chatter for an air of expectation. Eyes fixed on him, their expressions wavered between curiosity and skepticism. "Thank you for gathering, everyone. I know I'm not exactly the poster child for community-driven projects," he began, struggling for composure while feeling the weight of their judgment. "But I'd like to offer you a new perspective, a proposal for affordable housing that aims to serve those we often forget." As he spoke, each word felt less like a pitch and more like a personal manifesto. He could see the wheels turning in their minds, yet doubt clouded their expressions. Ben raised an eyebrow, ready with a rebuttal. "Jack, with all due respect, that's not what our firm is known for. You're risking our reputation proposing something so unconventional." Jack's heart raced. This was the confrontation he had dreaded, the stark reminder of the divide between ambition and authenticity. "Maybe our reputation is in need of a redirection," he shot back, the heat of determination warming him from the inside. "I want our work to mean something beyond profit. Aren't we capable of becoming architects of community as well?" Murmurs rippled through the room, some intrigued, others dismissive. Jack's confidence faltered momentarily, but then Emily's laughter echoed in his mind, a haunting reminder of clarity and purpose. Do we want purely to construct impressive monuments, or can we create spaces that resonate with the people's needs? He leaned forward, desperation mingling with resolve. "I believe we can do both. This is an opportunity for us to redefine what success actually looks like, not through awards, but through the lives we touch." The intensity in the room shifted, and he noticed the subtle changes in their postures. Curiosity began to overshadow reluctance. But as Jack's words danced in the space, an unmistakable spark of disagreement ignited again. Only this time, he felt ready for it. A meeting was about to erupt into chaos, with his colleagues fiercely debating the implications of his vision when Ben interjected, his tone a blend of mockery and challenge. "So, Jack, are you saying we should just abandon our principles, trade architecture for social work?" The razor blade of doubt sliced into Jack's resolve as he prepared for Ben's assault. But the stakes were clearer than ever. He could no longer tiptoe around the truth. "No, I'm advocating for an evolution. We can incorporate value while reshaping our narrative." A silence fell, pregnant with uncertainty and potential change. Whatever lay ahead, Jack recognized he was no longer merely a player in the game. He had positioned himself as an agent of transformation. The question loomed large, heavy with consequences. Could this firm embrace his vision, or would it fracture under scrutiny? He clenched the edges of the table, awaiting their response. This was only the beginning, and he sensed, deep within, that his journey was about to lead him somewhere far more profound than he had ever imagined. The air in the room hung thick with unresolved tension. Jack could almost taste the challenge in the atmosphere, as if everyone was waiting for him to either rise or crumble under the weight of his proposal. He maintained his gaze on the assembled group, knowing this moment was far more significant than any project he had dared to suggest before. The debate erupted, voices layering over one another, some in support of his unorthodox vision, others echoing Ben's skepticism. They tossed ideas like rag dolls, some glimmering with potential, while others fell limp under the scrutiny. Jack absorbed it all, a whirlwind of opinions swirling, but he focused on the core of his messaging. He was finally voicing what many had kept buried. Amidst the chaos, Jack's heart raced, not out of fear, but from an exhilarating surge of purpose. A rush of determination coalesced within him, reminding him of the clarity he felt while drafting the proposal. "Perhaps we have a chance here to lead rather than follow," he added, his voice steady now, cutting through the din. "Let's not mistake innovation for abandonment of our principles." Ben narrowed his eyes, clearly unimpressed. "And what makes you think this community-driven strategy will be profitable? The market isn't waiting for good intentions." Jack knew he had to tread carefully. Ben's challenge was not merely a personal attack. It was a perfectly timed strike on Jack's core belief. Did he even expect to convince his peers, or was this a reckoning he had skirted for too long? "Profit doesn't have to be the enemy of purpose," Jack replied, taking a breath to channel his clarity once more. "I propose we redefine both profit and purpose hand in hand." His declaration silenced the room for a moment as every face turned towards him, their expressions caught between disbelief and consideration. Jack's pulse quickened with the thrill of possibility, but he knew the groundwork would need more than just words. Without waiting for the tide to turn against him, he pulled out another piece of his strategy. "Why don't we pilot this? Look at a small project where we can integrate affordable housing with sustainable design. It's relevant, it's needed, and it could set a precedent for future endeavors. It tests not only our creativity, but our dedication to true impact." The air, and Jack could feel the mental gears churning. Unlike previous conversations, where he had merely entertained ideas without weight, this time he felt emboldened to take charge of his narrative. It was not only about the project anymore. This was about his identity. Emily's smile resurfaced in his mind. He won't let her down. This was the fight for more than just his professional aspirations. It was a battle against complacency, against himself. The struggle to reshape a firm that mirrored his values mirrored a deeper personal evolution. "Let's discuss the existing structures and metrics we can rework," a supportive voice from another colleague spoke up. Jack turned to the speaker, a gleam of gratitude igniting hope within him. Perhaps there was a flicker of receptivity among them. The dynamic shifted with palpable energy, Jack now the pivot around which ideas revolved. No longer merely reacting to doubts, he was actively guiding it toward resolution. With each new perspective offered, he felt himself shedding layers of insecurity, stepping into a version of himself that he dared to imagine in the past. Still, this moment was fragile. Tentative support could easily shift back to resistance. Ben glanced at Jack, a smirk forming. "You really think this is going to change everything? One project doesn't redefine a firm's reputation, not without serious backing." Jack met his gaze, determination hardening within him. It's not just about one project, it's about laying a foundation for a different vision, one that evokes genuine connection. That's the heartbeat of good architecture. As the room buzzed with fresh ideas, the conversation moved away from simple critique. But in the recesses of Jack's mind, a new fear emerged. How far would he have to push for his vision to become reality? The palpable shift in sentiment toward his proposal was encouraging, yet the path remained fraught with challenges. He felt like the captain of a ship in a storm, knowing that the waves of skepticism could overwhelm him if he didn't navigate smartly. With the meeting still unfolding, Jack grasped that the battle for acceptance had merely begun. He sensed excitement washing over him, but with it came trepidation. He was on the cusp of making transformative breakthroughs, but they could just as easily slip through his fingers. And as he steered the conversation toward tangible next steps, a palpable sense of resolve enveloped him. Would his colleagues rise alongside him, or would they retreat into the comfort of their conventionality? The moment loomed large, gripping Jack's sense of direction with an urgency he could hardly ignore. For in that room, his personal evolution was not just a mere possibility. It was becoming an undeniable reality, and the outcome hinged on what came next. The air hummed with determination as ideas flowed, morphing from abstract concepts into concrete strategies. Jack became more than an advocate for his vision, he was transforming into a leader. The exhilaration pulsing through him was akin to electricity jolting through a live wire, igniting. Something deep within, a drive he had almost forgotten in the routine of corporate life. "Let's outline our objectives," he proposed, his voice cutting through distractions. "If we can establish clear, measurable goals, we can not only evaluate our project's impact, but also demonstrate the feasibility of this approach to the skeptics." Heads nodded, and Jack could see the landscape of the meeting shifting beneath his influence. He encountered an unexpected mixture of validation and fear prickling at the back of his mind. What did it mean if he succeeded? The repercussions of this change could be monumental, altering not only the firm's reputation, but his own professional journey. Could he shoulder that weight? Amid the unfolding discussion, an unsettling realization dawned on him. Stepping into this role meant he had to confront his self-doubt. He had spent too long blending into the backdrop, letting others dictate the tempo and direction of his career. Now, here he was, standing at the helm of potential change, and it terrified him. A voice cut through Jack's introspection, a challenging yet familiar baritone. It was Ben again, his skepticism a constant shadow. "Even with these goals, what's to stop competitors from outpacing us? We can't afford to be seen as too experimental. We have to protect our margins." The skepticism stung, but Jack felt a growing resilience in response. "Isn't that the point, Ben? To become leaders in a service-oriented space? To create something that resonates with our clients on a human level? These aren't just profits at stake. This is about creating a legacy." A murmur cascaded through the group, and Jack felt a wave of energy surge within him. The whirlwind of conflict had begun to settle, and he was rediscovering his sense of purpose with each interaction. Eager to convert this nascent momentum into a rallying force. He kept his focus sharp, allowing himself to bask briefly in the new confidence forming around him. Yet, while the collective enthusiasm felt intoxicating, Jack knew deep down that every conversation, every challenge laid at his feet, was a reflection of his inner battle. As the meeting drew to a close, Ben offered one final jab. "You realize this isn't just about a project, it's about who you're choosing to be moving forward. Are you really ready for that?" Jack met Ben's gaze, feeling the truth behind the words like a dagger. This wasn't merely about a project anymore. This was about redefining his entire narrative, challenging the status quo within himself. The stakes had shifted, and the risks had grown. The moment lingered, thick with tension, and for all the enthusiasm bubbling inside, a sliver of doubt grappled for his attention. Would he follow through? Could he maintain this newfound stance amid potential backlash from established partners? What if he faltered when it mattered most? Taking a deep breath, he straightened his posture, pushing through the insecurities that threatened to resurface. "I believe we can create a framework that works," he said, his voice now, "and I'm willing to lead that charge. We owe it to ourselves to step into the unknown together." With a final glance around the room, Jack could see the mixed expressions on his colleagues' faces. Cautious optimism, reluctant admiration, and lingering skepticism battling for dominance. Yet one thing was clear. The journey ahead was not just for the firm, but for him, a personal ambition impacting his professional destiny. As the meeting adjourned, Jack walked away, battling his own internal storms. The next steps would entail a delicate dance between ambition and uncertainty. He could no longer conceal behind shadows. Everything he had fought for now beckoned him to embrace a reality fraught with risk and reward. And in that tension lay a compelling truth. This was only the beginning of a transformative journey, and the next phase could pivot on a single decision. What challenge awaited him in the realm of not just architecture, but in his emerging identity? Jack felt the thrill of anticipation building within, but the true test loomed before him. Would he seize the moment or let it slip away as he had so many times before? Jack stepped out of the conference room, the vibrant pulse of excitement still reverberating in his chest. He had taken a risk by embracing his role as a leader, yet uncertainties lingered in the corners of his mind. Each question felt heavier than the last. Would he be able to turn his vision into reality? More importantly, could he withstand the scrutiny that inevitably came with pioneering a new approach? He navigated through the bustling office, passing colleagues who were engrossed in their own tasks. Their hurried movements and sterile conversations felt visually oppressive, as if they were reminders of the very journey he sought to alter. Feeling the weight of his decision, Jack decided to take a moment to himself, seeking refuge in the rooftop garden. The space was his sanctuary, an oasis where fresh air breathed life into his swirling thoughts. As he leaned against the railing, watching the hum of the city evolve into a tapestry of activity below, Jack took stock of the vulnerability he felt. There had always been comfort in being part of the crowd, in watching rather than leading. Today had marked a departure from that narrative, and with it came a spike of fear embedded in a sense of purpose. A nagging thought intruded. Could he truly inspire change, or was he destined to falter? The fear of failure was profound, gnawing at the edges of his newfound resolve. If he stumbled, it wouldn't just be a setback for him. It could undermine the aspirations of his team and diminish the faith they had begun to place in him. As his heartbeat returned to a steady cadence, he began to reflect on the tools that had gotten him this far. Remembering the mentors who had guided him through the labyrinth of corporate life sparked a flicker of reassurance. Had learned from success and failure alike alongside them, developing a keen understanding of the challenges ahead, and understanding that every leader faced moments of doubt. The very act of acknowledging that doubt was the first step to overcoming it. Just then, he recalled an insightful conversation he once had with a mentor, a conversation about the necessity of listening. Jack had always been a good listener, absorbing others' ideas and incorporating them into his own plans. Perhaps it was time to leverage that skill as he ventured into uncharted territory. Engaging openly with the team, decoding their apprehensions and aspirations might serve not only to steady himself, but also to bolster the collective strength of their mission. Reinvigorated by this thought, Jack dashed back inside, a renewed sense of urgency fueling his movements. He knew now that the path forward wasn't solely about outlining objectives, but also about fostering an environment where every team member felt valued and heard. It was a strategic pivot, one that would require him to blend his vision with their insights intricately. Entering the workspace, he paused to absorb the energy of his colleagues. Their conversations buzzed with hints of skepticism, yet amongst the doubt, he sensed eagerness too. He would call an immediate follow-up meeting, not to rehash the same agenda, but to open the floor to his team. He wanted to foster robust discussions that could expose the different dimensions of their vision. The room needed to be a canvas for collaborative growth. That's when Ben approached him again, arms crossed, a glimmer of uncertainty in his eye. "Are you really doing this now?" he asked, almost incredulously. "I am," Jack replied, his tone steady and resolute. "It's time for us to embrace our ideas collectively. If I'm going to lead this charge, I need to do it alongside everyone. This project isn't just mine, it's ours." Ben regarded him with a mixture of doubt and reluctant acceptance. "You're betting everything on this. What if they don't buy in?" Jack felt the familiar trepidation return, tailing his every thought, but this time there was no retreat. Instead, he solidified his response. "The only way to see if they will is to ask. If we prepare together, we'll be ready for anything." As Jack prepared for the next meeting, he understood that leadership wasn't just about projecting strength. It involved embracing vulnerability and nurturing relationships. He would forge ahead, hard questions ahead, but necessary gifts waiting for him in the form of collaboration and solidarity. As he set the agenda for the discussion, a bolt of realization struck him. By learning to lead through listening, he was not just reinventing his firm's approach, he was redefining who he was at his core. But would Ben and the others be willing to engage at the same level? The stakes were rising, and as he gathered his thoughts for the meeting, he couldn't help but wonder, where would this newfound approach lead him? Would it strengthen his standing? Or would it ultimately threaten everything he had put on the line? The meeting room filled with a tension that felt palpable to Jack as he stood at the front, poised yet anxious. Colleagues filed in, taking their seats with varying degrees of enthusiasm. Jack could pick out the skeptics from those who wore faint smiles. The atmosphere buzzed, a mixture of expectation and hesitation simmering under surface-level small talk. He noticed Ben still with arms crossed, casting a wary look, as if ready to pounce on any sign of weakness. It was now or never. Jack tapped the tabletop lightly to gain their attention, feeling his stomach flip as silence fell upon the room. "Thank you all for coming. I know you're busy, so I'll make this straightforward," he began, pushing away the nerves that threatened to overwhelm him. "Instead of me outlining our goals again, I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think about our direction, and how do you believe we can achieve it together?" He felt a shiver of uncertainty echo back, yet it was immediately met with a warmth of open dialogue. Slowly, hands began to rise. Hesitations melted into candid ideas, forming a tapestry of voices woven together by a shared goal. Someone suggested additional resources that could help streamline their workflow, while another raised concerns about potential market pitfalls. For the first time, Jack felt the frayed edges of his vision being knit together by the contributions of others. Each input lit a spark inside him, compelling him to guide the conversation even further. Jack leaned into the feedback, mirroring their energy, drawing out more details, prodding the team to expand on their insights. It was exhilarating to witness the evolution occurring within the room. Each contribution seemed to carve out space for a collective understanding. The initial doubt he sensed from individuals like Ben began to wane, replaced by a curious engagement. As he navigated through the issues raised, Jack paid close attention to Ben, who had gradually unfolded his arms, his expression shifting from skepticism to intrigue. Perhaps it was a shift in perception, an opening to the possibility that their collaboration could yield greater solutions than he had initially envisioned. Jack made a mental note to follow up with him later, to dig deeper into his still visible reservations. Yet, just as Jack began to feel buoyed by the shared momentum, a familiar voice broke through the enthusiasm. "But Jack, is this really how we should operate? Listening isn't going to solve the fundamental issues we're facing," someone interjected, casting a shadow over their discourse. Jack steadied himself, the words echoing in his mind, and felt an instinctive urge to backtrack, to take shelter in caution. Instead, he stood resolute, meeting the challenge head-on. "Listening might be exactly what we need. The problems we face can't be fixed in isolation. Our best collective strategy lies in understanding each other first. Otherwise, every solution might merely skim the surface of the issues we need to confront." The room fell silent again, the conviction behind his words demanding reflection. For a fleeting moment, Jack questioned this stance. Was he defying the very foundation of traditional leadership? The fear bubbled within, juxtaposed against the growing anticipation he sensed from the others. This was a pivotal moment. He could either retreat into the comfort of authority or forge ahead into vulnerability. A momentary silence hung thick, but soon enough, another voice emerged. "You're right, Jack. We've tried separate solutions, and they haven't worked. Perhaps we need to start by solidifying a foundation together." A ripple of agreement followed, and his heart lifted as he realized the shift was happening. Time evaporated as more voices joined in the chorus of collaboration, and unity propelled the conversation forward towards plans that felt tangible. Jack felt fortified by the momentum, but doubt still danced at the periphery of his thoughts. Would everyone sustain this engagement beyond today? Could they eventually face the challenges he was unearthing, the risks that came with ambitious change? As they delved into specifics, Jack's vision was painted anew, no longer a solitary undertaking. He was molding something stronger by weaving in the insights of his team. Yet, as the meeting drew to a close and excitement lingered in the air, a gnawing sensation resurfaced. Had he unwittingly opened Pandora's box? What hidden conflicts might arise as they ventured deeper together? The reality struck him. Collaboration was not just a source of strength, it would also expose vulnerabilities he hadn't anticipated. Jack stepped away from the meeting with renewed purpose, aware that the road ahead would not merely test his ability to lead, but challenge him to confront the deeper impediments lying within. And as the dust settled, Jack pondered the next steps. He needed a plan for addressing potential dissent. A vision was only as strong as the unity behind it, but how could he prepare for discord among the ranks? Would he be ready to navigate those waters when they inevitably arose? In the days that followed the meeting, Jack's mind raced with reflections from the gathering and the undercurrents he sensed. Each time he passed the conference room, he replayed the discussions, critical moments where he stood, slightly unsteady yet unyielding, against the tide of doubt. He began to wonder about the weight of leadership. It was terrifying and invigorating at once. His heart thudded in synchrony with the cascading thoughts. Was he asking too much, too soon? Were they truly ready to embrace the discomfort that came with transparency? Or would the facade of professionalism crack under the pressure? Visiting Ben was high on Jack's agenda. The man was an enigma. His skepticism had the potential to either forge a formidable barrier or serve as a catalyst for growth within the team. Jack resolved to uncover the solid ground from which Ben's perspectives emerged. During a casual coffee break one morning, Jack found Ben by the window, looking out, as if the world outside might provide some clarity. "Mind if I join you?" Jack asked, forcing himself to remain nonchalant despite the inner tempest. Ben nodded, and for a moment, silence fell between them. Jack sipped his coffee, the warmth grounding him. "So, what did you think of the meeting?" he ventured, careful to maintain an open tone. Ben turned slightly, studying Jack with a guarded expression. "The openness was different. I'm used to a more directive approach." He took a breath, a flicker of vulnerability emerging. "But I also sensed that it could lead us into chaos. You know the company's been through ups and downs. Are we really equipped to dig deep?" Jack felt the weight of Ben's concern, one he shared. Change is uncomfortable. It's true. We could risk wandering into disarray, but isn't that better than stagnation? He leaned forward, eager to coax a deeper discussion. "I can't manage everything alone. My ideas are limited by my perspective." Ben's brow furrowed, the challenge in Jack's words evidently stirring something. "But how do we maintain control? There are always people who take advantage of these situations. We could end up with infighting and dysfunction." Jack nodded slowly, realizing they were touching on something fundamental, a fear of losing control, a fear that resonated with him too. "That's true, but isn't admitting that risk a part of growth? If we don't explore those vulnerabilities, we'll never fully understand our capabilities. We might even discover strengths we didn't know existed." Ben considered this, and a shadow of doubt crossed his features. "So, what's the plan to ensure we're still moving in the right direction?" Jack took a moment before responding, putting into words a strategy that was forming in his mind. "Perhaps we need to establish ground rules for these discussions, ensure that all voices are heard, but also set boundaries on the critique. Open isn't an invitation for chaos. And maybe we use our next meeting to delineate specific goals and assign roles. We can't dilute our ambitions with free-for-all discussions every time." As he spoke, Jack felt a wave of resolve wash over him. It was a plan, a tentative yet empowering framework. Ben's posture shifted, and he leaned back, considering the structure Jack proposed. "You might be onto something," Ben finally admitted, a hint of approval in his voice. Jack's breath caught in his throat. Victory felt near, yet the path still held unknowns. Was this moment a breakthrough, or merely a step toward future conflict? The tensions within the team could bubble up at any moment. He could not afford to forget that. They finished their coffee in renewed silence, both men engulfed in their thoughts. Jack couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the edge of something significant, a test of both his leadership and Ben's willingness to open up. Could they really find the balance between exploration and control? Would their willingness to confront the shadows prove the catalyst for strength? Jack sensed an impending storm, one that could either unite them further or unravel the fabric they were beginning to stitch together. The impending decisions loomed like storm clouds on the horizon, begging the question, what would he uncover about himself when they inevitably faced the chaos beneath the surface? The meeting room buzzed with anticipation, the air thick with unspoken thoughts as Jack assembled his team for the follow-up discussion. Sitting at the head of the long table, he detected a myriad of emotions echoing across his colleagues' faces: skepticism, curiosity, anxiety. The tension coiled in his gut, a physical reminder of the challenge ahead, a challenge he had invited by advocating for openness. Jack cleared his throat, his voice steady but quiet, aiming to diffuse the charged atmosphere. "I appreciate everyone gathering today. Our last meeting was a step towards something new, but we need to build on that momentum, dissect our fears, and aim for a unified direction." As the comments began to flow, Jack attempted to remain an impartial listener, suppressing his instinct to respond initially. He noted how some voices were louder than others, filled with the certainty that Jack had learned to envy, a skill he realized he lacked. Thoughts scurried through his mind, and doubt seeped in like a chill. Could he truly lead these diverse personalities toward common ground, or would their individual agendas overshadow any hope of cohesion? Ben, seated to his left, opened with a calculated observation. "I think what we really need is a structured framework to address our vulnerabilities. We can't just dive into discussions without a net." Jack met his gaze. It was clear Ben was committed to ensuring structure, albeit while still harboring his skepticism. "Right," a junior member chimed in, her voice trembling slightly. "But how do we keep our roles clear without stifling creativity? I don't want to feel boxed in." A barrage of differing opinions launched into the room, each representing a piece of their varied fears, of being overlooked, of losing control, of stepping too far from their comfort zones. Jack felt each wave crash against his resolve, and he began to understand the complexity of stewardship. It wasn't simply about leading, but about orchestrating a balance amidst chaos. A thought sparked, a potent idea born from the interactions unfolding before him. "Why don't we use this time to craft our goals together? Let's create a living document that captures our collective vision, what we want to achieve as a team. And we can revisit it each week, adjusting it according to our discussions and concerns." They paused, weighing the suggestion. Jack noticed a flicker of intrigue glint in Ben's eyes, a sign that he was softening, perhaps even willing to explore Jack's framework. This collective contribution felt like a lifeline, tethering their fears to something tangible. Encouraged by the slight shift, Jack moved forward. "We can break into smaller groups to brainstorm specific objectives. Each group will then present their ideas, ensuring everyone's perspective is integrated into one cohesive plan." He smiled, a bold gesture meant to ease the tension but underlined with an urgency that he felt deep within. As they began to break into groups, Jack's heart raced, not from fear, but from a dawning realization that the success of this endeavor hinged entirely on his ability to let go of control. The delicate balancing act between leading and allowing others to guide him toward collective growth was starkly clear. What he didn't yet know, ironically, was how deeply this lesson would challenge his foundational belief in leadership. A surge of determination coursed through him. This was not just about the team's success, but also about his development, a crucial step in understanding the kind of leader he was meant to become. The chaotic energy in the room morphed as discussions ignited among smaller teams. Jack observed, feeling his confidence buoy. The shadows he had feared earlier began to dissolve into a dialogue filled with ideas and robust participation. But even as hope blossomed, nagging doubts began to creep back in. Was he truly prepared for the inevitable obstacles that would arise from managing this growing dynamic? Would his ability to adapt endure once the initial fervor faded? As the groups began to coalesce around drafts of their vision, Jack felt the ground beneath him shifting. The real work was yet to come, and with the specter of conflict looming on the horizon, he was primed for a pivotal lesson in sacrifice and authenticity. Could he continue to step back, even when the waters grew turbulent? The question hung like a dark cloud, heavy, pregnant with the promise of revelation, waiting for a daring confrontation with his own need for control. Jack stood in the bright sunlight that streamed through the glass walls of his office, observing the city he had longed to shape with his designs. With the conclusion of their last meeting, a wave of optimism had washed over him, sparking a newfound cohesion among the team. They had created a living document detailing their mission for community-driven architecture. Each page encapsulated their diverse visions and reached far beyond his original proposal, symbolizing the victory of collective thought over individual ambition. That sense of unity had not just invigorated the team, but illuminated a crucial truth within Jack. He had always sought to be the lone architect of his success, meticulously crafting his path with smart designs and accolades. But in those moments of listening, of fostering collaboration, he had begun to recognize the power others held to shape not only projects, but his own leadership identity. He had arched over the past weeks, stretching beyond his comfort zone. His heart swelled with gratitude for Emily, whose laughter was always a gentle push toward authenticity, a reminder that real success lay beyond skyscrapers and awards. Their conversations had layered color onto his once grayscale perspective, urging him to find joy in the process, not just the final product. She had shown him nothing was more admirable, a project dedicated to people, breathing life into sterile plans. However, challenges still loomed, as Ben's skepticism remained an ever-present element. Realizing this was not merely about convincing a few colleagues, but about fostering an ethos within the firm itself was essential. The priority was now to prepare for the forthcoming hurdles that could threaten what had been built. Jack gathered the team again, ready to chart their next steps amidst the potential chaos of differing opinions and defenses of the conventional. They needed to define how they would address challenges constructively. He could feel that the growing momentum hinged on transparency and mutual respect. "Let's discuss how we can effectively deal with pushback," Jack began, surveying the focused faces gathered before him. "We each bring value to this table, but how we navigate disagreements will shape our progress." A voice broke through the quiet, Louisa, a junior architect with a newfound confidence since their collaborative meetings. "What if we create a failure log, a way to openly acknowledge and learn from our missteps without judgment?" The notion ignited a series of comments as they explored the idea of transforming criticism into a learning tool. Jack felt his vision sharpen. They were building something together that didn't hinge on perfection, but on a willingness to grow through vulnerability. Throughout the discussions, Jack often referred to their living document, enriching it with dynamics revealed in their exchange. By leaning into open discussion about struggles while ensuring a safe space for opinions, he could see the ideas evolving, strategies developing in real time. Then Ben interjected again, fear seeping into his tone. "But how do we control what might spiral out of hand? We need to hold strong to our identity as a firm, or we could risk turning into something else entirely." Jack met Ben's concern head-on, feeling the urge to reassure while also championing his vision. Strength in identity doesn't rely on rigid adherence to tradition. It derives from recognizing how that identity can adapt. We're not abandoning our principles, we're redefining them to engage with our community's real needs. A silence followed, reflection flickering in the air. As Jack stood firm, he sensed the shift. There was something vividly transformative about the intersection between vulnerability and adaptability that all of them were beginning to grasp. As the meeting concluded, Jack felt the finality of something important. The unity woven into their mission now resided as a stronghold against the unrelenting waves of doubt and criticism that may arise. Each person present stood not just as a participant, but as a contributor to an evolving legacy, a testament to the power of collaboration. Jack left that meeting with a different kind of hope, stoking the embers of his own leadership journey. With Emily's light always behind him, he had begun weaving the architectural dreams of others into the fabric of his reality. Walking through his office, Jack inhaled deeply, catching a glimpse of the skyline dotted with glimmering structures that were no longer just symbols of ambition, but could embody community and purpose. There was a purpose for this newfound vision, one that reached towards encompassing the vibrancy and spirit of those around him. The city was alive with potential, and so was he. Jack Thompson was not just an architect. He had reshaped his identity into a leader willing to embrace both risk and authenticity. Leaving behind the haunting echoes of hollow success, he now stood on the brink of crafting a legacy where architecture could be a testament to connection. In those final thoughts of profound transformation, he realized he was headed towards something remarkable, one that would redefine what it meant to create spaces that inspired, challenged, and fulfilled the soul. Now was the time to step boldly into the future, driven by purpose and community, achieving heights that echoed the laughter at a bus stop even amidst the skyscrapers that now surrounded him. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.